Today we're going to go over simple and compound interest and how to calculate it. Simple interest. So simple interest is money only earned on the principal, the original amount. So principal means the original amount. It is earned over a period of time and written as a percentage. So here is the formula for simple interest. I is going to be the interest. Okay, that's going to be the interest we earn. P stands for principal. And remember, principal can be original amount. R stands for rate, and that is as a decimal. Okay, so I'm going to write the rate as a decimal. T is time, and that means in years. So the I is interest. P is principal times the rate as a decimal, and then times time, and that is in years. So let's look at question 1 here. A $900 deposit for 20 years at a simple interest rate of 4%. So let's highlight some stuff that we're looking for. So for starters, simple interest rate. It's always important to find out what formula we're going to use. We know the rate is 4%. We know we're going to have a $900 deposit, and we know it's going to be for 20 years. Okay, so the formula is I equals P times R times T. So now let's take the information we have and write it out. So interest rate is what I'm looking for, so I don't know that. The principal is the starting amount, so right here it's 900. The rate is 4%, so 4% as a decimal. Remember, I can take and put a decimal place in, so it'd be 0.04. And the time is in years. I know it is 20 years. So now take the numbers I have and insert it into the formula. So I equals 900 times 0.04 times 20. When doing this math, okay, multiplication, I can do it in any order. So what I suggest is when you have a number here where you have, or a problem where you have to do times 3 or more numbers together, that is the only math operation you are doing, do what is simplest first. So I'm going to do 900 times 20 first. And 900 times 20 gives me 18,000 times 0.04 still equals I. Now here's where we probably need some more room. 18,000 times 0.04. Do that math as usual. So 4 times 0 gives you 0. 4 times 0, 0. 4 times 0 gives you 0. 4 times 8 is 32. Put the 2 down, carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 gives you 7. Now, since I have just zeros for the rest of the numbers, I don't have to do any more math. However, I did the multiplication as normal without having a decimal. Now I see there is 2 digits behind a decimal. So I'm going to insert a decimal 2 digits in. The interest on that will be $720. So the interest is $720. What is the total value? So the total value of the account after 20 years. Well, I need to take the interest, add the principal to get the total value. Or you might see it as account balance, okay? Either way. Let's take 900 plus 720. 0 to 9 plus 7 is 16. So the total value of the account in 20 years is 1,620. Now you're going to do the same thing for problem 2. So 2, I know I have $5,600 deposited. I know it's going to be for 45 years. Simple interest, okay? Pay attention, because once we go into compound interest, you want to pay attention for the keywords that tell you what formula to use. At a rate of 3%. So interest, again, is what I'm looking for. The principal is going to be $5,600. The rate is 3%, which as a decimal is 0.03. And the time in years is 45 years. So now taking that information, insert that into the formula. 0.03 times 45. And again, it is always easiest, for me at least, to multiply the whole numbers first. Three times 2 is 6, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And again, like we were doing earlier, we notice there's 2 digits behind the decimal on the multiplication problem. So I'm going to put a decimal place in 2 digits over. So the interest is going to be 7,560. Now the total value, I need to take the interest plus the original amount. So I'm going to take 5,600 plus 7,560, add those two together, and I end up with $13,160. Now compound interest. Compound interest is earned both on the principal and any previously earned interest. I want you to think of it as earning interest on interest. So the formula for compound interest is account balance equals principal times the sum of 1 plus the rate to the time as an exponent. So A is account balance, P is principal, I is the interest rate or just rate as a decimal, and T is the time, again in years. So when we figure this out, we will get the total account balance, how much money is in the account. When we need to go ahead and figure out the interest, to figure out interest on compound, so on compound formula, interest equals account balance minus the principal, and that will give us what the interest is. So over here is account balance. P is the principal times the quantity of 1 plus the rate as a decimal, 2 time in years, and this is an exponent. Also, notice that the compound interest formula gives you the total balance, okay? It gives you the account balance. Be careful, because some questions will ask you for the interest, some questions will ask you for the account balance. If they want the interest on a compound interest formula, you have another step to locate the interest. Okay, so let's look at number 5 here. A $400 deposit for 7 years at a compound interest rate of 2%. So first off, I want you to pay attention to what they're asking. So highlight or write down what formula you're going to use. Compound interest. We know we have a deposit of $400, so that's going to be my initial amount. We know it's going to be 7 years. And we also know that it is at a rate of 2%. So compound interest is account balance equals P times 1 plus the rate as a decimal to the T as an exponent. So account balance is what I'm looking for. Principal is $400. The rate is 2%, but as a decimal, be 0.02, and the time is 7 years. So account balance equals 400 times 1 plus 0.02 to the 7th. So now order of operations in order to solve this, okay? Pay attention to order of operations. So parentheses, 1 plus the rate, which would be 1.02 to the 7 times 400. I put that in parentheses just because that is my next step, is account balance. Now, 1.07 to the 7th power. Exponents are it times itself multiple times. Okay, so it's going to be 1.02 times 1.02, and that's going to give me an answer. And then I'm going to times that answer times 1.02. You end up with about 1.14, let's go 8 there. It's a number bigger than we need to, times 400. And go ahead and times these two. And remember, it is multiplication. I can do it in any order I want. I'm going to do it this way just because it is less work I have to do because I have all the zeros. So zeros, adding them in as place value holders because I know it would just be zeros across. 4 times 8 gives me 32. Put the 2 down, carry the 3. 4 times 4 gives me 16 plus the 3 gives me 19. Carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. Now again, remember I have 3 digits after a decimal here. So 1, 2, 3. I get $459.20, but that is going to be the total value. So 459.20. Now in order to get the interest, I need to go ahead and take the account balance minus the principal equals interest. So account balance is $459 minus the principal, the amount I started out with, will give me $59.20 worth of interest. Now, last question I have here, I have a $9,000 deposit for 4 years, compound interest rate at 6%. So first thing I want you to do is highlight the important stuff. Okay, and make sure you highlight what type of formula you're using. Right here is compound, but it will change between compound and simple. I gave the principal is $9,000. The rate is 0.06 because 6% as a decimal is that, and the time is 4 years. So now take what I know and write the formula accordingly. Once you go ahead and put the information in the formula, start doing the math, go ahead. Remember, you get the total value. And in order to find the interest, you need to take the total value minus the principal to get the interest.